So last week on Juneteenth, the Basquiat estate announced another collab with H&M this time, but it's like a layered collab. They're collabing with a black-owned fashion company called Who Declares War. It's pretty funny that it's on Juneteenth, but it's pretty funnier that there's another clothing collab with the Basquiat estate. There's nothing wrong with it. This feels like the millionth collab between the estate and a random fashion company. I'm aware that his two sisters own the estate, but the licensing is done by a company called Artistar. It's starting to feel a little weird. I'm a big fan of Basquiat. I went to the King Pleasure exhibit. I've seen his work in museums at least 4 times. The earliest I've seen was 2017. That's the year I discovered him, but it's starting to feel a little weird. The King Pleasure exhibit was perfect. I thought it was like the best way to expose his work to the public because his estate was in control of it and it wasn't just like random rich folks just, passing his work around. So after I attended that event, guess what happened? The algorithm just started showing me Basquiat stuff for like the last year. Mind you, I went last April. It's been pretty wild because like I got a Basquiat ad every day and it's just like random clothes, just random stuff. And I guess you could say I'm a hypocrite. The only reason I'm making this video because like I'm a part of the problem, as you can see. Like I got the Basquiat Uniglow shirt. This jacket actually popped up. Like it popped up on the algorithm. Like it's a cool ass jacket. Got the crown and everything. It's raw as hell. You feel me? Yeah. It's starting to feel a little weird. I also have a Basquiat Barbie doll. Like a full-blown Barbie doll. I bought it just in case it would be worth something. So after a couple years, I bought this 4 years ago. And I now realize that I'm a part of the problem, trying to capitalize off them just like everybody else. So I'm making this video from a conscious perspective. So yeah, just in the past 5 years, like we've seen Basquiat with the Tiffany ad. We've seen it on rugs, candles, whiskey, phone cases, neon signs, and even skateboard decks. It's just Basquiat everything. Basquiat everywhere. It's starting to feel like it's in the realm of pop art. I was a big pop art fan at one point, but like pop art in the modern day, not really a fan of. At what point do these collabs start to feel a little bit too extra? As a black artist myself, I truly look up to and I really appreciate all his sacrifices that he made by being a black artist, especially in that time period. Even though it feels like a black artist, we're gonna forever be in his shadow and everybody's like trying to find that next darling, and everything is compared to him. And I'll remain a fan forever, but I felt like it was time like somebody kinda, brought this up. Like I'm starting to feel like his actual legacy is being overshadowed by how many products exist in the world right now. A brief history, I'm not gonna get too in detail because there's 50 million videos on YouTube that you could watch, know about his upbringing and whatnot, but to keep it simple. Jean-Michel Basquiat was born in 1960 in Brooklyn, New York, to a Haitian father and a Puerto Rican mother. He always had an interest in art, but he really started his artist career as a graffiti artist under the name Samo before transitioning to a neo-expressionist painter. His work covered topics such as race, class, history, and social justice. Basquiat received a lot of praise during his short stint in the 80s. Even though his recognition came with a mix of admiration and controversy. He quickly gained attention in the early 1980s for his unique style and the raw energy of his work. His first solo exhibition was in 1982, and it was labeled a significant success. He was also featured in several major exhibitions, including the Whitney Biennial of 1983, which helped solidify his reputation as a leading contemporary artist. As he ascended in the art world, he became a star. He was featured in prominent publications at the time like the New York Times, Art Forum, and Vanity Fair. He also became the subject of several documentaries and was also featured in many films, which further amplified his star power. Along with all the press and all the shining lights, he also faced a constant racial stereotyping and fetishization from the world. Some critics and collectors focus more on his identity as a black artist from the streets rather than the depth or intellectualism that came with his work. Sometimes it seemed that people were fascinated with him rather than the power of his art and what it stood for. Many people could not grasp what he was trying to portray in each one of his pieces.
I had this a lot. Most of my reviews have been more reviews on
your personality.
On my personality, yeah, more so than my work mostly.
How do you react to that sort of thing?
They're just racist, most of these people.
Since he was the hottest thing in town, there was a intense pressure from dealers and collectors to produce more work quickly, which contributed to his feelings of being exploited. Despite his success, he often felt isolated within a predominantly white art world. He struggled to relate to his peers who could never truly understand his perspective as a black artist. Pressures of the fame, exploitation, combined with his personal struggles with addiction and mental health significantly impacted his well-being. He ended up dying of a drug overdose in 1988. And here is one of his final paintings called Riding with Death. One of the lesser known facts in our society is the fact that zombies stemmed from Haitian folklore. So in Haitian folklore, the concept of a zombie isn't the mindless, brainless creature walking around wreaking havoc. It's more so, think about Jordan Peele's Get Out and how the two servants, I think it was the aunt and the uncle, they were just working at the family's house, just serving the master. So like many things throughout history revolving black culture and the culture of the diaspora, the whole definition and concept of a zombie was whitewashed. So in Haitian culture, a zombie is a reanimated corpse brought back to life through magical means by a sorcerer. Lacking free will, the zombie is controlled and used as a laborer, symbolizing a loss of autonomy, reflecting the deeper societal fears that related to slavery and exploitation. That is why I had to make this video. He just gets summoned a couple times a year just to make a company a quick profit. Whoever pays the most, they get to grace their bag with a crown. And it's just like very weird. It really feels like he's being summoned, just like the zombies were in Haitian folklore. I feel like it's different that his family has control over his estate, but something feels off with the amount of like Basquiat products that exist in the world right now. Basquiat himself always wanted to be a top of the art world, but in the time period he existed, it wasn't realistic for a black person to do such. Why do you think he was so fascinated with a crown and all his pieces? He wanted to be on top. It's such a Western thing to do, but he just wanted to be at the pinnacle of the art world and he was just denied. But in his afterlife, his work goes for 9 figures. He wanted to make it to the top and it came with so much sacrifice, and I just wish he was able to see how revered and how sought after his work was. So Bell Hooks actually talked about it in the book Art on My Mind, Visual Politics. I'm going to read a couple of lines from the book. I feel pretty much encapsulates the issue I have with Basquiat's work being placed everywhere. To bear witness in his work, Basquiat struggled to utter the unspeakable. Prophetically called, he engaged in extended artistic elaboration of the politics of dehumanization in his work. In his work, colonization of the black body and mind is marked by the anguish of abandonment, estrangement, dismemberment, and death. First, the critique of Western imperialism, and then the critique of the way in which imperialism makes itself heard, the way it's reproduced in culture and art. This image is ugly and grotesque. This is exactly how it should be, for what Basquiat unmasks is the ugliness of those traditions. He takes the Eurocentric valuation of the great and beautiful demands that we acknowledge the brutal reality it masks. The ugliness conveyed in Basquiat's painting is not solely the horror of colonizing whiteness. It is a tragedy in black complicity and betrayal. His images are nakedly violent. They speak of dread, of terror, and being torn apart, ravished, commodified, and appropriated, made to serve the interests of the white masters. The black body, as Basquiat shows, he shows it as incomplete, not fulfilled, never a full image. That sounds like a zombie to me. It's very sad, but I could keep going. These works suggest that the assimilation and participation in a bourgeoisie white paradigm can lead to a process of self-objectification that is just as dehumanizing as any racist assault by white culture. Content to be only what the oppressors want, this black image can never be fully self-actualized. It must always be represented as fragmented. Expressing the first-hand knowledge of the ways assimilation and objectification can lead to isolation. Basquiat's male figures stand alone and apart. They are not whole people. For the white world to recognize Basquiat, he had to sacrifice those parts of himself they would not be interested in or fascinated by. Black but assimilated, Basquiat claimed the space of the exotic as though it were a new frontier waiting only to be colonized. Through all the grind and all the suffer that he endured, let us not forget his experiences that led to his art being so powerful in the first place. Let's not forget that this work was under the perspective of a black person existing in New York City in the 80s. It was just so much that went on to it that he left his soul on all the canvases, and now it's being left on the back of a phone case. It's kind of weird. Is it possible that his legacy be maintained by allowing products to be easily accessible to, the general population? As you can see, I got the coat on, so am I a hypocrite? But I truly do feel that the commodification of his work is zombified him in a little bit, and he just gets summoned every once in a while to make a quick buck. And it's real sad, especially with the decline of art education in the United States. People are gonna just eventually just see Basquiat as like, oh, I've seen that on a skateboard, or my friend has a neon sign at home. Like, it's concerning. So ask yourself, are we honoring Basquiat when you buy that bottle of whiskey? Are you honoring Basquiat when your favorite billionaire artist shouts him out on a song? I don't know. If you think you are, shout out to you. If not, I think you have a reasonable argument that his legacy is being tarnished by the over-commodification of it. So let me know how y'all feel in the comments. I hope this wasn't too hot of a take, but it's something I've been thinking about for the last few years. So let me know how y'all feel in the comments. And yeah, thank y'all for tuning in.